talked about AI. We talked about data, algos, what works and what doesn't. We talked about ROI as well. But what the heart of the marketing is the creativity that goes in, that connects with the masses, that tells the story. So we are going to do an interesting conversation about martech versus creativity. I mean, can it go hand in hand, or are there any differences? So we have with us Sowmya Iyer. She is a creative strategist at heart. Also, of course, she runs a digital agency, so creativity plus tech. And we have Manish. Manish brings 25 years of experience in the marketing world. Before, before launching his own agency, Zamun Services, he was the group CMO of Sterlite Technologies. And we have Shitiz Dogra. Many of you might know him from LinkedIn because he is very famous there. And he talks a lot about marketing. Also, he leads marketing for one of India's major Indian airlines. And now we have Vishal. Vishal is the brand and creative strategist at Pocket FM. So now he knows how to go with tech and creativity with the audio platform for sure. So let's start with the simple question. Now that we are talking about the debate about the martech versus creativity, has technology made marketers more creative or just more efficient? We'll start with Sowmya first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? So just to set a context for why I'm going to say what I'm going to say, I run DViO. DViO is marketing and technology company. We are a digital-first marketing and technology company. We operate in 6 countries and with over 300 people across all these countries. And we are perhaps arguably the only organization which is equal measure in revenue, creative, technology, and performance. So for the last 15 years of running the organization, we've been at the intersection of creative, tech, and performance. So we've really grown through our understanding of how tech supports creativity, supports performance. Now, it's a no-brainer that automation has helped all our lives. I don't think there's anybody in the room who has not used automation in some way or the other, right? Now, when we speak about technology, it helps in automating. Can you think of a world from a media perspective where, for example, targeting was not an option? Now, that has been given to us by technology, right? Imagine targeting was not an option. You'll have all kinds of creatives being bombarded to you, which may not have any relevance to you at all, right? So targeting, automation, or for that matter, even what you're able to do with new formats like augmented reality, virtual reality. With AI now, we are able to use technology as a sounding board, etc., right? So I think technology for sure has brought in time and efficiency to all of us. So there's no arguing about that fact, and there's no going back on technology anymore. But when it comes to creativity, I believe it's a double-edged sword. Like I said, many of us would be using AI to brainstorm, either for us to get some thought starters or for us to validate certain ideas. Having said that, I think the biggest challenge is when you over-rely on AI or technology, right? So you would have observed that when you are, engaging with any AI tool for that matter, and if you rely too much on it, there is a sense of repetition that you have. So there's a templatized response that you are likely to get, and that is because AI is not capable, no matter what we say, is not capable of original thought. So I usually say that use of technology or use of AI without human intelligence or original thought is nothing but a glorified copy machine. Right. So I think at the heart of what we do as marketers, and a good marketer will always use technology to amplify imagination, not to replace it. Right. So I believe that we are in an age today where it is not one versus the other, but it is the balance of the two.
Thanks, Sowmya. Vishal, what's your take on it?
Hi. Yeah, okay. So basically, when it comes to MarTech, right, or when we look at technology, the basic core promise of every technology is efficiency, right? That's the basic promise. Imagine cooling this room 300 years ago, right? There would be 300 people fanning, but we don't need those 300 people today because, we have fans and we have ACs, and those 300 people are doing something else. So the core promise of technology is to deliver efficiency. Are we only using it to deliver efficiency is, I think, the question that we should ask, right? Are we only using technology to reach the right customer at the right time, at the right place, but not having anything compelling to say? That's the question that we should ask ourselves, right? Are we overcorrecting? Are we over-optimizing? Are we under-imagining as marketers is the question that we should ask. And one of the most important things, right, that tech today, right, with AI also has joined the tech wagon. We can say that tech is being tech. It is fast, it is agile, it is scaling up, but are we being human enough? Are we being curious enough? Are we imaginative? Are we courageous to take leaps, to think ideas that are bold, that are differentiated? Or are we just resorting and using data as a shield that I have data, hence, even if I am wrong, I am confident because I have data to back it up, or we are taking that bet on ourselves and we are going for maybe, probably I'll be right, right? So I think probably we have moved to deterministic logic, which is not marketing, because I think marketing lies somewhere in probabilistic magic, which we are not exploring enough. So I think it's time we be more human.
Great. Manish, you have seen marketing evolve from gut to data. What are your thoughts on it?
You make me sound very old, Shailja.
No, you're not.
No, I think this is... so I want to take like a slightly different stance, just because while I agree with everything here, I do think I see enough places where the AI version of technology, right? Like I'm not talking about, the workflow version of technology where you put some things here and a lot of tasks. The generative AI version of technology is killing some creativity, right? Let's first accept that some of that is happening. Was it ever intended to do that? No, it was intended to make us more efficient. Was it ever intended to become more effective? Absolutely it was, right? But have I seen some people misuse technology to become boring? Yeah. And then that's the side effect of any technology, right? Like when somebody invented nuclear fission, did they want to kill people? Possibly some of them did, but you could also convert energy out of atomic reactions. So one of the things that I would like to say is a thing that my father told me when I was a little boy, ancient times, right? Is that for every culture there needs to be agriculture, right? You can't be drawing if you don't have the fields creating food. And this technology, I think, is to improve the agriculture of marketing. Make sure that if you are writing something, the titles are not smaller than the heading 2, right? You'll be surprised how many times we have designers who don't understand that you can't mix a serif font with a sans serif font. You can't, have a background that is not much in contrast with the foreground. So that part, I think it's doing a fabulous job of. Whether it is writing new content or it's coming up with imagery, it's doing a great job of giving you basic good stuff. And therefore, those people who are below basic are becoming more creative, and those people who are fundamentally above are sometimes becoming lazy, and then they're killing their creativity. But if those people know that they could use certain things for more capability generation and then use their freed up time, the 300 people who don't have to fan this room anymore can be creative, right? So similar to that, that's possible. But here's the thing, here's the data point I want to bring out to you. So I'm in B2B marketing now, fancy place, right? Like all kinds of detailed stuff done before you send one email out. 30% of all B2B emailers in America in the last quarter got written by generative AI. 30% is a big number. right? And people claim in some research done, I think it was Gartner's research that I was reading, that 70% of them are using. So it's not a matter of whether it will eventually kill creativity or not. I think people will cross the line, and then somewhere, I think in your notes you said, it'll become the baseline. Like if you did do a session somewhere without air conditioning today, it won't work, right? So similarly, everyone will be using it. And those who don't get killed by the easiness of generative AI will be creative. And I have big hopes for it. And I actually think I have big hopes for places where creativity was very difficult to find. If you are trying to make a really good, exciting story about how to sell a turbine or how to market optical fiber, these are the kind of things I do, right? It was very difficult to find creative people for that. The B2B engineering world is extremely thrilled that AI can bring in some creativity. So it is actually quite helpful in one area. Some areas it's killing creativity. Hopefully that makes some sense, guys.
Manish, very spot on. And now, Shitiz, you have to add some tadka to it.
Thank you. I think the best innovation I think we as humans have seen is mobile phone, because when you're bored at events and in, meetings, you're looking at your mobile phone and you can generate random stuff with AI now. If anyone has tried Meta AI on WhatsApp, you should try it. Phenomenal stuff. It creates a lot of interesting stuff. But I think I kind of partially agree with your POV and Vishal and Sowmya as well. I think we as marketers would agree that what technology, or let's say AI, for lack of a better word, has added scalability for the way we create stuff and the way we are solving problems. But again, I think it's a double-edged sword. As a marketeer, I have a kind of I have a pro and a con view of it. The biggest example would be, we recently saw the Ghibli filter that ChatGPT did. I was very hurt because I'm a huge Hayao Miyazaki fan for the past 3 decades. And I was hurt because I believe in the philosophy of Miyazaki. You invest a lot of time, you invest years in creating something so human that you are compelled to interact with it. Why did Ghibli filter became a rage? Because it's human, right? You can connect with it. And it's very difficult to show human emotions in animation versus, in a real life. For example, if you see a Pixar film, right? It moves you because the amount of effort that it goes in showing emotions is just phenomenal. And again, so it spread because of the scalability. That's what tech has enabled. But the counterpoint of it is that, I'll just give you a very small example. When it was a rage and everyone was posting pics on LinkedIn, one leader had posted that my daughter was drawing something, and then she saw that everyone's making Ghibli filters. She stopped drawing. She said, what's the point? If it is generated within 5 seconds, who is pursuing art, for the fun of it or like for the soul of it? So I think that is one, probably the caveat that will always exist. Like every technology comes with caveats. That's there. But I think I have dabbled with a little bit of AI in my current role in terms of, with campaigns and stuff. I think there's still a way to go for its adoption as consumers. I think marketers who will be very objective with respect to how AI campaigns are being adopted, or they are converting or not, right? That will be the proof of the pudding. You can ask your performance marketers whether AI creatives are doing better or human creatives are doing better. You'll have the answer, right? That's a clear ask, because the adaptability or the acceptability of the generated creatives has probably not reached that level. It's not normalized yet. Like I would like to basically say that. So that's that. But I think. At every marketing summit, we see people quoting, content is king. But, it's an incomplete sentence. Content is the king, but context is the throne on which it sits. Now, throne, which is the context, is being enabled through tech. How it is being enabled? Through martech, right? So there are 2 types of basically stuff that we do as marketers. There's hardworking campaigns, and there are, enticing campaigns that we want your audience to, resonate with. That's where, the mix of martech and gut comes in. And probably, that's where you make the right calls. You might not want to blindly go after the segmentation your CDP is telling you. Sometimes the simplest thing, sometimes the simplest copy is car for sale, right? If you want to sell stuff, just be as direct as possible. Whereas on other sides, there will be some really amazing, generated stuff which will be very compelling, but whether it converts or not, who's to say? So you have to test the waters in before you can actually say what's working, what's not.
I mean, I just, and it's so true. I mean, when you spoke about the story of the Ghibli art and how the child sort of just lost the motivation to draw, that really connected with me. But one of the things that I've always held about AI is that think about a world that we have lived in till now, where in a world where anything that is repetitive is actually taken care of by technology. Imagine time has opened up for you for original thinking, and because most of us even today tend to spend a lot of our time in just repetitive tasks. And then when you have opened up for original thinking, what you can really create in the world today can be phenomenal, something that we've never thought of. So that's sort of the other perspective, very strong perspective I have on AI.
Great. Now that we are having an interesting debate, Manish, you want to say something?
I wanted to just add to what you said, Sowmya. I think it is an order of thinking of creativity as a higher order ask has been given to you as a creative. So I remember very interestingly, I don't know if anyone here watches Star Trek. Anyone ever watch Star Trek? Okay, lovely. Some people. Thanks for being to the next generation. So Star Trek was a seminal series. It still comes out. You guys, if you want to know what they are predicting, what will happen with future tech, there's a lot of cool stuff out there, right? Even now, they're coming up with new ones. They predicted something very similar to what is ChatGPT today, right? Actually, not so much that. I was specifically talking about, they predicted something very similar to what is, DALL-E 3 and Gemini and all the image creators. And they showed like an alien world in which a child could basically, by moving their hands, make a sculpture. And came in an Indian kid, not Indian, Earth kid, right? There was no Indians in that one, saying, oh, whoa, what is the fun in that? Right? And then that child, which was an alien child, who had imagined a dolphin in a very interesting space environment, said, but I made it. And that was something very interesting to me. Right? Okay, so if you don't really take a block of marble and chip it away to get a dolphin statue, you just think of it beautifully. Isn't that still a creative job? And that's what I thought. And today I would say, I've got so many people coming to me saying, can you show my solar panels with the Ghibli art filter? And I must tell you, sometimes it's irritating, right? Like, why would you do turbines in Ghibli art filter? But people ask for it. But I do think there is still creativity in choosing whether you'll use the Ghibli art filter, or how will you use it? Or why won't you use an aquamarine bioluminescent filter? Because that's also enabled. So a few days ago, when we were painters, we chose whether we should use horsehair brush and indigo pigments, just to trouble you. And later we were choosing Photoshop brushes and CMYK palettes, and maybe today we will choose something else. It creates new zones of creativity rather than killing things. So I agree with you, big time.
So I'll just add to it, right? If we look at, today AI is like a massive buzzword and we are talking about AI and all of that, right? And I think you said a bunch of things on that. There is this very cool website. It's, if I remember it correctly, I think it debuted in 2019 and it's called Bot or Not, right? And what it does is actually it writes poems, right? So, and it puts up those poems for voting. Right, so the question that you have to answer is that whether it is written by a bot or written by a person, right? And this is 2019, if I'm not mistaken, right? What is beautiful is that if you start exploring that website, you would start realizing that the bot or not percentage started dropping, right? So earlier you would start with an 80-20, right? So you would see a lot of poems which are 80-20, 80-20, right? Then suddenly it came 51-49. Then there were a lot of poems which were written by bots, but we mistook them as being written by human beings, right? There's another thing that just I want to add, right? Because we've been talking about scale and speed and where and what AI can solve for us. 2018, so Alibaba has this, I'm forgetting the name of the machine or the AI actually, they call it some machine. So it's technically their banner machine. So the 2018 Singles Day sale, which is their Black Friday, they sold inventory worth $31 billion in a day, right? This is when you could say that Nike at that year was valued at $32 billion. So you can say that they created, sold Nike in one day, right? That's the scale. How did they do it? It was that banner machine, right? The banners that it made, deployed with all products, GIFs, 5-second videos, it would have taken 150 art directors, 100 years non-stop, no breaks, 24/7 working to deploy the amount of creatives it deployed over a period of a month, right? So where does that really put us, right? Like we've been talking about, the technology will bring in the efficiency, right? That's the speed scale that's unmatched. If you are competing on speed and scale and we think that's what it is, it's a wrong competition, right? Our competition, I think we should go back to craft, right? It is time when we go back to craft. We should now understand what a 35 lens can do and what a 50 lens can do, because when creating image is so easy, right? You need to know what image works and what does not. And for that, we need to go back and look into our craft. This is not the age of copywriters, junior copywriters, supervisors, group heads. This is the age of creative directors. Everyone and anyone can be a creative director today because you have AI and tech available today for you to do your groundwork.
I must say we have a very enthusiastic speakers here. So now that you talked about the creative director, so I mean, like we are talking about the martech and martech versus creativity. So how has the role of creative director is evolving? Do you think that they need to be more tech savvy?
I'll take that question. I think it's the same learning curve what happens to banks when digitization came, right? People did not lose their jobs. People were made to be upskilled on what technology works, and that's exactly what creative people are trying to do right now. See, an advertising veteran had recently written on LinkedIn. He said that with AI, the output is only as good as the input, right? If you can give a tight input, that means you have the brains to write the right creative brief, right? So power lies with you at the end of the day, right? How you're scaling it and for what basically purpose you're trying to utilize that, that's where the genius lies, right? As he rightly said, it's the age of creative directors, and I think probably sometimes, we, by the weight of our experience, we get carried away with so much baggage that we don't think about common sense, right? AI meets common sense and you can kill it. I think that's what, I have been observing these days. What do you think, Vishal?
Yeah, and I completely agree, and I think you spoke about creative directors and martech and tech savvy and all of that, right? I'll just go back to this a bit, right? Like imagine there was a time when we had no written word, right? So we were doing oral storytelling at that point in time, right? Because as human beings, we love stories. So, then came the print, then we could print books. So we all started learning how to write books, right? So that also became like a craft. Then came painting, that came camera, then became digital, now AI. All of it is evolution of technology. Yes, right? Book, when it came, when you could print books, that was a massive technology, right? It's actually one of the technologies that changed human history, right? The point is that technology has always existed in some form or the other, right? What we take as default today, for example, again going back to the AC example, AC is default for us. But when it was invented, it was a revolution. Right? So a lot of technology, we don't consider them revolution today because they are our defaults, right? But storytelling is something that will always remain. It was always there. It is not going anywhere. So creative directors, I think the job of a creative or the job of us as humans has always been that we need to be curious, we need to be courageous, we need to be connected, we need to be aware, we need to know people, because if you don't understand our consumer, there is no way you are going to say something which is compelling, right? And we need to be obsessed with craft. I think that's what the role of creative director always was and always will be, no matter what technology comes.
Now that we are talking about the future of creating creative teams, so Manish, maybe you could answer this, and then Sowmya. I mean, is it going to be more storytelling driven or tech driven?
Oh, wow. I think the option way of asking this question is probably where the issue I have with it. I think there is no choice of anybody creative to not tell a story, right? So I think everyone always has to tell a story. What we are doing right now is telling a story, right? So I don't think there is any chance for anyone to not be a storyteller. But I really fancy the way you said it, which is we are all creative directors. And when you guys were talking about it, I was thinking, is this a new opportunity that I have been given? I don't see myself as a creative director, honestly. I see myself as an analyst who became a marketer and who loves design. But then I actually think that's because it was so difficult to be a creative director. In the depth of everyone who wants to be out there saying anything, they are creative directors, and it was just incredibly difficult to visualize the creative direction that you were going. And today, right, if you were just enabled a little bit, enough to talk to a prompt engine, and I must tell you, it's very difficult. Yesterday, I was sitting with one of my designers, and we were trying to come up with an image where somebody was very happy charging their car with an EV charger. Now, that's a picture you can take, right? Go somewhere, find a guy, put a car, get a EV charger, put the plug in, and make them smile. Well, that sounds like, at very minimum, 2 hours and a few cameramen. And right now, you can just write it, and it is you. Are you being lazy? Yeah. I mean, are you saving 2 hours? Yeah. What is the only skill you need? Tell ChatGPT to make that image. And I think at some level it's an incredibly, emancipating thing that you can say that. But I did find it was incredibly difficult for my designer to just talk to ChatGPT, right? So think about it, Shailja. We don't have to learn technology in the way earlier. Just a few years ago, one would have at least had to know the menu to drop, the click to make, the filter to apply, hundreds of things, right? Few more years ago, you would have had to open a green screen, go to the prompt, and write something that only a few people can understand. Now all you have to do is to talk. So I do think that people have to be way more aware than earlier, but I'm not so sure they need to be that tech savvy in that sense. Tech savvy used to be a lot of hard work. Now it's more aware. So I would say creative directors just need to identify that they are creative directors. The rest is rather easy now.
Manish, my key takeaway from what you said, we don't need to learn technology. Actually, it's the other way around. Technology needs to learn to learn. Right. That's what's doing, and it probably starting to think like we do. But probably the underlying question that you wanted to ask is at the heart of creativity is how you feel. Is it evocative enough? That's an answer we still don't have. Right. We are generating at scale, and of course it's subjective as well. Yeah. But still, like you rightly said, it will become the next normal. Case in point, UAE has made ChatGPT as the basic, it's a right for everyone to have access to that, even in schools now, right? So they are already thinking of the future.
Right to ChatGPT.
So, just to add a perspective on everyone as a creative director, I think what's really happened to all of us is that technology, or more specifically AI, has been the greatest equalizer of our times, according to me. Okay, because think of a scenario where there's a child who may not necessarily be the best in, let's say, writing, may not have the best language to write, but always has a great idea, right? Now, that child can tell the story in the world like a pro because of AI, okay? He's not any less anymore because he has an idea but does not have the language to tell the story. Similarly, let's say that you're a tech guy and you have a brilliant product idea, but you don't have the resources to hire developers, right? Now, AI has given you the power to develop products which don't require as many resources, right? So it's really democratization that has happened in the world today. Now, that being said, I recently, like I said, we are equal measure creative tech and performance. So I recently wrote a paper on how are brands going to really build themselves in the AI world today, right? So now, I would encourage you all to sort of just go back and think about different pages that you have seen on social, right? So let's say take any apparel brands that you may have seen on social. You would not be able to tell one brand from the other, right? And in the age of AI, this is going to get even worse, because if you are not going to develop something that is original, then it's going to get even worse, because you're going to have just more and more and more templatized work out there, and people are going to tune out of what you're trying to say. So I feel being able to tell a story is even more important in today's age, right? Of course, I think one way of looking at this is, what are the formats that we have? Whether you, as a storyteller, you've got to be able to tell a story in 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or 3 minutes, right? So as a creative person, your job is to actually be able to connect irrespective of the format that you are given today. And that is why, if you go back and look at the brands that are winning on digital channels today, right? The brands that are winning on digital channels are the ones who are actually telling stories authentically. So if you see the social media of brands where founders are talking about their journey, right, would actually win on social, versus somebody who's just doing photo shoots and putting products online. Or for that matter, if somebody is taking the effort to go and shoot the process of manufacturing something and telling a story while manufacturing that, or speaking about the why of the brand on social, those are the brands that are winning, right? And when we speak about performance creatives, or when we speak about technology generating content, right? And you would have marketers or performance marketing guys say, अच्छा ये जो last mile का creative ना आपका जो static है, that seems to be performing the best. Okay, now try over-indexing all your money on that creative, which is a static creative, which is probably shouting a discount at you. I can tell you, it's going to be diminishing returns on that creative. The reason that creative is working is because you have been told a story before you saw that creative, in different formats, So essentially, if you forget the art of storytelling in the age of AI, your brand is doomed. And that is why I repeat myself, ad nauseam, saying it's really not one versus the other. It is the power of both coming together.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sowmya. So I just want to bring in a very good example of the actual discussion we're having here. There is a part of creativity of scale and how brands are going to use it. Then there is a part which is the connection part of it, right? So I think the biggest example, you should look it up as well, for creativity at scale using AI would be Coca-Cola. So Coke has adopted Adobe Gen Studio products. They had unveiled their case study at Adobe Summit in Vegas as well, right? Imagine a brand having 350 plus brands across 100 countries and 200 websites. If you have to manage that scale with entire brand essence and a legacy brand which is 100 years old, and you have to ensure that it resonates with your audience in every single country, your input and your method to do it has to be that tight enough, right? And that basically comes to the main point that I mentioned in the beginning: context. What are you building, crafting for? You need to have clarity about that, right? And as you rightly said, I have tested it enough. AI creatives are not performing better, at least in my personal experience, in performance, right? I'm not sure what's the reason. In fact, as someone who is, neurotic about activity on LinkedIn, AI is penalizing people where your posts are having AI-generated comments. You will see that for yourself. If someone in this room who writes regularly on LinkedIn, you can check that for yourself. Your reach will go for a toss if people are just, writing random AI-based comments on your content. So that's the other side of it. Why are they doing that? Because they want authenticity, right? Of course, they want people to talk like people. Communities are meant for humans. So I think that's the point I want to make.
There's a thing that I guess is coming out of this conversation. I wanted to bring that out. One is that, look, if you have an imagination, AI makes it easier for you to visualize it. But that brings, and it might be an equalizer in that sense. It's an equalizer on, can your imagination be converted into a physical, visual form? It's actually a hardcore separator of if you have imagination. If you actually have better imagination and poor visualization skills, you are going to win. Earlier, you needed to have average imagination and great visualization skills. Now, I'm using the word visualization can also be for text writing. It converts ideas into shapes much more easily. So, it actually is unequalizing the imagination. The smarter imagination guy is going to win way more than the average imagination guy.
Actually, my favorite way of saying this is that imagine all of us have our Jarvis. Are we all brilliant enough to be Tony Stark? Right? We all have Jarvis now.
Right? Yeah. And the other one is that this, by the way, and kind of, so since I think of it as a techie at times, there's a reason why that is happening. And that's a quick story about how the first generative model was made called GAN, Generative Adversarial Network. Two Stanford guys, year 2012, having beer, deciding to challenge each other. One says, your AI can find the difference between cats and dogs, but can it make a new cat, right? And that came with the whole idea of, okay, I'll generate randomness and another AI will check if it is as good as a real thing. So the whole objective of all AI is it's trying to be average. It is trying to be average. What is the next word? It is saying, okay, the 85% likelihood of the next word is this, and 70% likelihood is this. So if you are coming up with something which is not so likely, you're going to be better than AI, because it's trying to be average, isn't it, by definition?
Great POV. I mean, it's the most easy session to moderate. Like, everyone is so enthusiastic to take over the conversation. I mean, it's going really good. Now that we are talking about the data versus gut, if you all could just share one example with us, I mean, where you chose data over gut and maybe it's reflected back on you.
Oh.
I could go for that. So we have a enterprise platform that actually brings together creative data, performance data, and also sales data. So the idea of the platform is to actually give you actionable insights after looking all the streams of data in one place. Yeah. So now, for one of our clients, who's a top B school in the country, there was a particular creative that was doing very well on the performance engine, and it was actually throwing out leads, and it was performing very well. Now the team thought that when we introduce maybe certain creative cues or communication which is likely to connect better with the audience, those creatives will pick up and probably generate better quality of leads. Now, one of the key things for us to understand about tech is algorithms actually optimize for what works, not necessarily for original thought, right? Or not for originality. So while the gut that the team had was, while, this creative which was perhaps talking about the infrastructure of the university was doing very well, they knew that if they introduce certain creative cues around the content of what the university is offering, it's likely to perform better. But the algorithms just did not pick up that creative, right? So what they had to do was they had to stop the campaign that was actually doing very, very well and then introduce these creatives. And then the result was that we had much better quality of leads, even though probably not necessarily the number of leads, and we saw success with that particular campaign, right? So therefore, I think, like I said, I think one of the things that we have to repeat to ourselves is that algorithms will optimize for clickbaity stuff and not necessarily for original thought that contextually connects with the audiences.
So engaging session going on, but we are running out of time. So one last question, one word answer you have to give. If you have to kill one martech buzzword or trend right now, what it could be? Just one word answer from
I'll
each
go
of
first.
you. Yes.
Incrementality. It's a new animal in the corporate jungle. I hate that word.
Cool. Manish.
No, I don't want to kill anything. I am
You
a
have
peace-loving
to,
guy.
You have to. Just one
Let
word.
it-
Helps you sell. So
Anything you are buying, I'm selling, man.
for me, it's one is big data. There's nothing called big data. There's only insights. So that's one. And I would also go for something like growth hacking. What is growth hacking? I mean, the very word called hack means it's not sustainable. So it has to move to the better lens would be like sustainable and authentic growth over a long
I know
period of
these
time.
are the same
So-
people who can't say candidate but say we want a rock star.
Correct.
These are the ones who invented it.
I'll go AI driven and hyper personalization.
Yeah. Agree.
Shailja, I have just one thing to share.
Hyper-personalization will kill.
लिखने से ज़्यादा कुछ होता ही नहीं है. There's nothing called hyperpurpose.
Yes.
To your previous question, I'll just quickly summarize one very interesting story. So you were talking about going over data over gut, right? I'll just take 120 seconds max. So this story is from my personal experience as a startup co-founder. So we in 2015 we had a health food startup based out of Gurgaon. And that time nobody was doing calorie counted meals, and there were not too many players. Health was not big on the scene then. And we had just raised our seed round, and we were trying to tap into customers in the corporate area. So typically what will you do? You will find out all the corporate parks in Gurgaon, try to do a radial targeting, run meta ads, right? Find out the audience size, and try to attract them. So our cloud kitchen had just opened near Space IT Business Park. OYO's headquarters was there back then. So what we did was we came up with a strategy that we are going to give poha in 1 rupee, right? And we made a creative and I wrote a copy also. So what the copy said was, life mein dhoka nahi poha kha, right? That's the copy I wrote because I wanted to attract people. And we were giving poha for 1 rupee only, but you had to order it from our app, right? So why am I doing that? I'm a new startup. I want to, gain the critical mass quickly. And मैं जितनी जल्दी installs लेके आऊँगा उतना ज़्यादा, मेरे लिए फ़ायदा. I don't want to raise my CAC. That was the, basically essence behind it. So we ran radial targeting ads on all corporate parks because basis the media planning, it showed that there's this much reach, this much impressions, blah, blah, blah. We were very happy, kicked. All 4 co-founders were kicked, कि भाई तो फोड़ देंगे हम, right? But ultimately what happened was, we saw like 3 days into the campaign, the needle was not moving. People were not buying into the idea, right? And then we had to real time decide that probably this might resonate better if we go do a BTL, if we go on ground, right? We did a BTL activation for 4 days, and on the day when it was supposed to go live, the orders thingy, we saw most of the orders coming from word of mouth. We were standing we were a small team of like 15-20 people standing at the entrance of Space IT Park, and we got like roughly around 1,500 to 2,000 installs that day, 800 orders, purely because the BTL activation did a better job than what I was relying on as a digital marketing, right? So sometimes you try to be too cool, it doesn't work, right? Probably the human angle of, one-to-one connection, we were telling them, and when I was also on the streets, right? So I was giving out the pamphlet to people. People will read the copy and will get enamored. They'll be like, we'll have a conversation and be like, just download the app. And people actually downloaded the app, came to us, gave us 1 rupee, took the order, and then went away. The entire experience was very different from what we had imagined.
Lowest CAC
Ever.
I guess we have to wrap this up, and it was the most vibrant and engaging session till now. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.